and
Okay.
then we can start. So,
Maybe adjust your camera up a little bit so I can see you a little better.
okay,
There you go.
yeah.
There we go.
So,
Thanks.
there's a lot happening around the globe, and I don't know where to start from because it's the what do you call it? The happenings. It's like you have opened a Pandora box, and then one thing jumped from the other, and we initially wanted to continue with our agriculture stuff. And then suddenly the med bed came in. And then suddenly there's another event which is, happening currently, which is affecting global, what do you call it, getting global attention. The stock ship in the Mediterranean, the Suez Canal. So maybe we can start with that, and then we branch off into other things if still there are more to share. So your take on what is happening, and
Yeah, no, that's a good place to start, Benjamin. And we all have our version of what's going on over there, right? Like, and the, the beautiful part of it is that if we listen to everybody's story and then take that into our own, and add to our own, it's such a beautiful way to do this. It's the big picture, it's the whole picture, right? So listening to people talking about, for instance, with that ship, how it drew a picture of something beforehand, right? Okay. And it's what that meant to me though, okay, is that this week, and I mean, I've been doing this with a friend for a while already, instead of talking about the hoax that's going on, in any way, that thing where people are putting the mask over their face. I just call it a prick job, right?
Yeah.
Because you're putting the prick in your shoulder, putting that prick in your shoulder, and you get it all, and everything's good, all that bullshit. So, it kind of resonated with that photograph or that picture.
The picture that I said.
And then, but that's kind of on the lighter side of it. But on the deeper side, from my aspect, everybody who listens to what I have to say knows that I'm connected with some very large account holders, right? Some of whom are from the Middle East, some are from the Far East and Southeast Asia, but some from the Middle East. And that, I don't know, confirmation came last week through admirals, okay? So generally we talk about generals when we talk about the white hats and the military that's, joined forces throughout the world to take on this human trafficking situation and, release us from that, whatever you want to call it, deep state. There's so many words and names for it, right?
But no, you don't know what to say.
That's right. I mean, it's just overwhelming sometimes. And what we're trying to do is just offer our part in it. So our part in it was that last week, for the first time in months, we heard from an admiral. Well, what is the admiral? Okay, we're talking about vessels in the sea, and we're talking about ships, and we're talking about admiralty law.
Yeah.
All of that is coming into this, when we think of that ship stuck in the canal. And then we think about in terms of religion, or not religion but spirituality. And there was and prophecies, and there was a young man prophesying the other day from a situation prior to the announcement that that ship got stuck. And he comes out in his prophecy at a church and says, after Biden stumbled 3 times, we're going to get to the foot of this problem, and the feet are coming out on this whole system. And then he says, there's going to be a ship. There's going to be a story of a ship. Well, couple hours later, the announcement came out, and it wasn't, the timing was cool. So
Cool.
there's a spiritual aspect of it. So we can't ignore it. Let's put it that way. It's affecting shipping of goods and, more goods than services, I guess. But, well, it could be services if it's some goddamn, pedophile ring or something like that. But that's what we're here to see, if it happens or not. But in general, 12% of the economy of the world moves through that Suez Canal, from the east through to Europe. So it's going to affect things in a huge way, no matter what. And we've just kind of gone over three little sectors there. Some of it maybe a little bit lighter, some of it bringing out our emotions. And to me, it brought out some emotions, because I looked at it last night, and I slept pretty well, but I woke up this morning agitated, thinking, God, we've got to get this human trafficking issue out in the mainstream media, because that's where the people that are still, just following along, wearing masks and defending this ridiculousness, will finally see something that bothers them, because how can anybody not be bothered by human trafficking, sex trade, and the potential of pedophilia, moving children through to places where they're going to be used in that manner, let alone, the idea of organs and adrenochrome and that kind of stuff, which is even more disturbing and harder for us who to stay on our path without getting that emotion involved and getting angry again, right? So I'll pass it back to you, Benjamin, but I thought I'd
actually, I have been reading a lot when this thing, happened, okay? Because to understand what is happening, sometimes the past always serves as a guide. So I tried researching about the Suez Canal, though we did that in school. We learned about the Suez Canal in school. That piece of that street, little street, which is a one-way traffic, have a lot of global impact and have a lot of historical incidents occurring, And in 1956, when a similar situation, the war, which France and then the English team up against the Egyptians, ended up, creating a mess there. And then when it happened, what happened? Britain and the French wielded so much power in the then, world then, 1956. When they took this decision to attack Egypt without the approval of UN, they lost their power to say their voice in Europe. Now, these two couldn't do anything without a consensual agreement, approval of the US after the war. So it have, what do you call it, implications. The implications that these things have is that had those times when at that time when it happened, was that somebody lost his global sort of influence around that time. And when you go on YouTube, I think Professor Venom, Professor Venom have done a good work on this, what do you call it, historical, and there are a few ones that I also sent you, which is in parts. But I think the professor's own, showed, because he's a professor in that area, he really dug into the matter very well. And I think it's going to influence trade. And if you're looking at the manifest of you are talking about maritime admiralty law. Some people even don't get the whole thing about maritime admiralty law. It is as Jordan, Maswell Jordan, if you can search about him, Maswell Jordan Jordan clearly, explained the maritime admiralty law. By Maxwell definition, we have only two laws, okay? The law of the land and the law of the sea, okay?
Yep.
And this law of the land and the land of the sea, the law of the sea actually govern everything that has to do with commerce. So when the ship berth, it berth in a canal, okay?
Yeah.
And then you come from your mother's canal, okay?
Yeah.
And when you are being birthed, water comes out, okay? So then you have a doctor, and then you are into a dock, okay? And
Yeah.
then they issue you a manifest. Which goods do you have on board, okay? So the manifest, that is why they give you the birth certificate, birth,
Yes.
okay? So you have birth there. When the ship birth, it enters into the bay, they say the ship have birth. Are you getting me? So
Yeah.
now, and then they give you a certificate of manifest. And the certificate of manifest allows you to do commerce. And then you say merchant, words like mer. Mer means the sea, a business, So there's a lot of, if you dig into it. So everything is happening around this, the waters, money, and our trade or our means of exchange of goods have been framed upon the maritime admiralty law, okay,
Yep.
which governs everything. And now there's a lot of changes going on with the quantum that bring in the quantum financial system, because the maritime admiralty law is very complex, and if you don't take time, you'll be cheated. If you don't understand the whole thing, you'll be, what do you call it, cheated, because the law of the land and the river have banks,
Yeah.
banks that brings in the banks also. So at the banks you do, and when you go to the what do you call it, the courtroom too, they have the same system. The banks, you see that the banks, and they do a lot of what do you call it, business. We can go on and on and on and on and explain this whole thing, but what is happening now is epic, though people don't
Yes.
see it now. uh, uh, I had it is being speculated that the navigation system went haywire, and therefore it was drawing, some things that cannot be pronounced, uh, because of children, watching and all that, before
Yeah.
it got stuck. And
Yeah.
this evening, I was, there are terms which have started, people are saying bow. And when bow is mentioned, somebody asked me, what is a bow? And so I said, okay, let me send it to few friends about parts of the ship. We have the deck, on
Yeah.
top of the deck, and then you have the, what do you call it, the primsum line and all that, the level which is, the ship can sink in clear water, and then the ship can, be afloat in the seawater. This primsum line, show all this kind of stuff. Okay, so
Yeah.
I was showing a lot of people about what is happening, and when the keel of the ship have really gone into the soil. And if you watch some of the pictures that are coming out now, they are trying to try to pull it back from where it is stocked. And
Yeah.
with the load on top of the deck, and it's a big, if you look at Evergreen, Evergiven, it's a huge ship. and look at the
Yeah.
load of containers. And if you look at some of the manifest, if you go to you Google it, there are a lot of information pictures on the internet. And if you are internet savvy or IT savvy like some of us, you know where to go to get all the information, from. So you will see the name, the call name, and whatever it is. You will find a lot of it. People are decoding and adding a lot of information to it. You will see where the ship, started from, the port of entry and the port of exit. It is going to, I think it started in Asia, somewhere Asia, and it's going to finally berth in Rotterdam. Mhm.
Yep.
And the news that is coming from that place, there's a picture that I saw where I think some 8 months ago, where the Rotterdam police, busted um, a container, a warehouse which contains specially designed containers where people are kept, and sort of, a lot of things, go on there. So, I mean, people, like you're saying, people who are not awake, or people who haven't seen the reality of the enormity of the problem that is there, will suddenly wake up to see, when the
Yeah.
whole world is shown. For now, it is like we have the ship say no trade again. Okay. And this evening, the report, I had from a source say the price of toilet roll have, started spiking up again. And if I say the price of toilet roll, you remember when the corona started coming in and people were rushing in for the toilet roll, okay? And if it sit there for some time, it's going to, what do you call it, create a lot of revenue loss for
Yep.
the canal operators. I learned 400 million, that is the average, okay? Average 400 million USD is lost per day, okay? On daily basis. And if it stay there for a long time, it, it therefore means that the goods need to be offloaded. And if it is offloaded, some, I hope some of them, some of these big Mex 40-foot container contains perishable goods.
Yep.
Normally perishable goods. Some of them contain medical supplies, which need to be operated at certain temperature. So if this ship stays there for a while and is running on generator, okay, the
Yeah.
fuel may be, what do you call it, exhausted, and then it therefore need the cooling system. If it's fish, some of them carry, fish, or what do you call it, frozen food. So just imagine and run all kinds of factors into it. They are perishable goods, goods with date expiration and all that, and certain things which need to move to certain places at a particular time. If they don't get there, you, what do you call it, incur charges. And some of the goods have this, I don't know how you call it, but they have, penalties if you fail to deliver at a particular stipulated time. Then you have to pay. The shipping company have to bear the charges, involved.
Yep.
And there was a video that someone sent, and a ship, what do you call, one of the guys who work in the container yard said some of these containers that you see are actually a conduit to smuggle human beings and you see it as a container for car, but it's not actually container for car. They are air conditioned inside, room, and people live there until they get to their end.
Yeah.
Okay, so their destination, their service destination. So the speculation being made online, and who knows, it can be true, and
Yeah.
we
So
know.
Benjamin,
Mhm.
let me add to that a little bit what you're saying there. Like it's, yes, there's a huge disruption economically. And not only that ship, but the ones that are backed up on either side, right? Because they can't get through. So that's obvious. There's so many things here that are going on. But you mentioned the Admiralty law, and like I said, it was an admiral that contacted us last week and said everything's fine, we got this. So that was my confirmation to say something was going to happen in the seas. But the other side of it is that Admiralty law, like the maritime legal jurisdiction. I'd rather call it that than use the word law, because law is more, to me, that refers to God's law, which is do no harm, or at the very least common law. But this Admiralty legal system, or the maritime legal system, is what also protects the privacy of corporations, right? So think about that for a minute here when we say, these corporations that are releasing the little prick in your arm, are protected, by that same maritime legal jurisdiction crap. Every port of entry, every berthing of these container ships where they bring them in, maritime law protects them, protects their corporation privacy from anybody looking at those damn things and seeing what's actually inside of them. So this story is epic. It's grandiose. It's Kraken. It's the biggest story in the sea. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's
release the Kraken.
Yeah, and it's got everything in it. It's international. It's global, which is what this is all about. Global trade, which we don't need. We need to start getting back to, growing food in the areas that we live in and not shipping it all over the bloody planet in this globalist agenda that's been going on. The whole story is just such a magnificent one. And the beauty is that the media can no longer hold it back. They have to talk about it because they have no choice. It's now a happening event, and it's going to affect so many things that people that are just sitting, still watching news with their face masks on or their diapers over their face in front of their television at home, which I'm sure some of them do, but the rest of them that are still sitting there gobbling up this government is going to save me story it's going to wake up a hell of a lot more people now again. And wake up is maybe not a nice word, but what else are we going to use, because we still see hundreds of thousands of people wandering around with that diaper over their face. And it's, in my city, for instance, the emergency measures are over. There's nothing holding that back from them doing it but themselves. They're keeping that face mask on because of themselves now. There's no law that demands that they do it. There's bylaws and there's suggestions and there's protocol, but there's no law. So it's beautiful. This whole thing is really magnificent, Benjamin. And we can segue into now where you and I come in, but you go first. I want to hear, how you sum this up, because I'm summing it up as a Kraken story as far as the sea.
Trade actually influences a lot of things, and for many of us, this ship was heading towards Europe, okay, and most Europeans are not awakened to some of the things that are happening on the other side of the Atlantic, that is the US, okay? So with this in front of your door, And, it is actually happening around the middle. Asia, it involves Asia and it involves Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's at the doorstep of Africa on the Atlantic, the far end of the Atlantic is the Americas. Okay. And then above is what do you call it? Europe also. So now all eyes is in the Middle East, to
That's
look
right.
at what is, actually happening. Will you cover it? Will you, hide it? Now people are going to ask questions,
Yeah.
and people are there are a lot of videos that are coming out, but because of um, graphic manipulations and stuff, sometimes you have to wait for the authentic ones, okay? But a lot of
Yes.
videos that are coming out, and we are going to see what is actually happening in secret, because for now, on the sea, you cannot hide. When you're in trouble, what do? You
Yeah.
have to call for help. And in calling for help, like I was saying earlier, to get this thing on stock, you cannot, it's like, let me make an analogy, because uh, I've seen this with cars. When a car gets stuck in the mud and it have, goods on board, or what do you call it, load of materials on board, what
Yeah.
you do is first you try to reduce the weight of the, what do you call it, and for it to be unplugged or unstuck, we need to offload some of these things. And
Yeah.
offloading some of these things, like I said earlier, most of them are plugged into electricity for, what do you call it, air conditioning, refrigeration, some of these, what do you call it, this 40-foot container have even plumbing systems in them, okay, just
Yeah.
to recirculate water and stuff, or whatever is carrying. So how are you going to do? All hands on board, come. And when you come, before I can help you, please can I open, these are my terms. These are my terms. You have to allow me to, do, a lot of, stuff. Unplug the system. And if I unplug and maybe you are keeping contraband, contraband goods inside, then you have problem, okay? And there's a movie I can recommend for you to watch. The Lord is Lord of War, Lord
Yes.
of War, okay, by Nicolas Cage, and uh, how they struggle arms on ship to
Yeah.
the what do you call it, the middle, Africa and other countries to fight among themselves. And he was narrating in this movie, he was narrating how they sometimes evade the system. And because these guys are, cruel, kind of, they only look for the money, okay, liquidity.
Yeah.
So what they do is they buy the most of these guys who patrol, or the watchers in different countries, and the
Yeah.
ship is registered. Maybe there are two places that I learned. It's not so easy, but you can somehow get your ship registered quickly. Liberia and then Panama. Okay. Yeah. If you read the book, The Plumbat Affair, which I read some time ago, it's just a nice story. In fact, it's a nice, it's a nice, I mean, if you are that mind kind of searching guys, cerebral, you want to, read into the plumber affair is one book that you can read, and it's showing you how these things also occur. So on the ship, uh, Nicolas Cage was uh, uh, a tip-off was given to one of the zone that he was passing. Okay, and for people who don't know, if you pass through a zone, you have to fly a certain flag, and there are certain places that they know that this ship is passing here today. So you fly that particular flag. So he was passing through a territory which didn't have the particular flag that it was carrying, the ship was carrying. Okay. So because he has also joined himself with some corrupt officials in some of these and they are working together. Okay. So he got a tip up from his insider that, there's one guy called Valentine. And this guy, if all people in reality were like him, there will not be problem or there will not be scandals. Okay. He was not looking for money. He cannot be bribed. Even when he sees something, he still want to get near. And then, so when Nicolas Cage had a tip of what he did was, he said, can I change the name? What name of the ship can I change? And okay, Kono, Kono. And I said, so they had pins with letters, and immediately they changed it. They just painted it, and then they put, the name of the name of this Kono on. And then he said, which flag is it flying? He said, it is flying the, I think Holland flag also. The Holland flag and then the French flag are similar. When you turn one upside down, it becomes one flag. When you turn it the other way. And that was it. That was what saved the day for him. When this guy came, he jumped, he said, okay, but I think it's suspicious. He jumped onto the ship. He said, and they have, for the inspectors, they have certain containers they open for. Some of them contain rotten goods, okay? So potatoes, rotten potatoes, they open it. You yourself, immediately you open it, close it, okay, I'm going, And then some of them are really labeled nuclear, okay? If I bring you to a container with label with, with a yellow sign on it, even if there's nothing there, you won't go there. And there have been experiments that some psychologists, have done. They put, please don't enter into this, and still people invaded. But immediately they brought the yellow nuclear sign, and then they stuck it there and said, this area has got active radiation. Everybody, even refused. There was no, what do you call it, net or whatsoever around it. But because of that sign, the radiation sign, everybody ran away, okay? So immediately they have that stamp on the container, everybody leaves and then goes, okay? So the systems in place, have allowed some people also to manipulate the system. But when you are in a big shit, excuse my language, all these things will not work again. Now you will be crying for help, for people to help you, because the more you sit there, the more you pay. And I hope that Egyptians will be merciful to the ship owners, because if they have some profit margin averagely they collect in a day, okay? So if you are creating the problem and you are the reason for that, then I think you have to be surcharged, okay? And people need to be paid, people need to eat. So all these things will factor into all these things, and we're going to see a lot in the coming days if it continues to sit there. So,
brother, it's
yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful. And you know, what it's exposing too, to me, is the fact that the governments of the world, which all collude, I there's one world government, and I know that, and you know that, and they all collude, have now no choice but to surrender to the militaries of the world, who are now in a position of power. And that's what's we've been trying to explain that to people for a long time already, to say, look at, you know, it's not even so much about Trump, it's about the military white hats, if you know, that's the language that a lot of people use, that have collaborated with the Russian military, with the Chinese military, with the Indian military from India. And those militaries are separate from the governments, and especially thinking in terms of the communist CCP, which is completely run by the banking families. And the reason I say that is because of my knowledge with how Hong Kong was handed back to China when the CCP took on this birth certificate, or, you know, identification with the human, to create credit and get away from an asset-backed system. And just recently, January the 1st, the trading platforms that hold these large asset-backed accounts, moved out of Hong Kong. So again, it's that coordinated effort that's going on, that, you know, it's the big picture that, yes, it may sound a little bit strange for Benjamin and I to be talking on different levels here, but about different things, but it's all one big picture. Yeah. Thank you, Benjamin. That's exactly right. So I wanted to thank you because I needed to get this out this morning. You know, it was one of those days where I was getting, you know, anxiety and frustration, and talking about it like this with someone as aware as you is beautiful, because, and then people can listen to us. There's very few that are going to just walk away from this conversation and say those two are full of
Yeah.
holy crap, remember when Benjamin said this, or when Randall said that? And they're going to pick up some little thing out of it. And that's what the beauty of communication and our capability to come at this with a smile, with some humor, with some non-judgment, if you want to call it that, but accountability to those who can't have any more excuses for what's gone on this planet, as far as, you know, heinous crimes and cover up government, you know, organization. Like it's just so obvious to us now, and you know, the last few years have just kept going, one thing after another, and to bring this to a head in that birth canal, you know, it's just a perfect story to add everything together.
What is
and
it going
even
to
my
beg?
story is one. Yeah.
What is it going to
And
beg?
and the story that I always tell about the unlimited abundance held by authorities or authentic people at the top, and unlimited people with projects and things that are good for humanity waiting at the bottom, and that canal in between that just needs to be a little wider and let that flow of funding come through, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So it resonates with our story as well, Benjamin, on the banking front. And then, so we've gone on quite a bit, but I'd like to talk just a wee bit on the food side, which is where I got to stay focused, okay? Because if I try to do too many things or add my words into, you know, admiralty law or maritime legal jurisdiction or any of that stuff, then I don't sound like an expert, and there are experts in that field. But I'm a bloody expert in the food industry, in the natural food industry, and I got to stay focused and stay grounded there, knowing that our projects, the ones that we're going to do with you in Ghana, Africa, and here in Canada and other places in the world, are going to happen with this funding that's going to come when that birth canal opens, and that final birth of those funds comes through. And once one happens, it just keeps happening over and over. So I'm going to stop there, brother, and I'd like to hear your version on the med beds, which you wanted to share with us. And then
Okay.
we'll probably
And with the
chop it
food.
off after that.
Food.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank
it's one of those meals that you receive in the morning and then you are so happy. I got a video meal, a kind of video, and there was this lady in Australia explaining how the med beds work and how she herself have experienced that. Okay, and her name is Sky with Sky with at the end, Sky Prince. So
Yeah.
that's, you can find her on, I think, Facebook and then YouTube as well. And she was explaining how this system work and why she was advocating that people like shouldn't go in for this jabs that is going on now, because it'll mess up with your DNA, which the med beds require. Okay, because for the med bed to work, actually she explained that the med beds can regress your age. So if you want to get to a 30-year-old Randall, they sample your DNA and they look at the sequencing, sequence it. The telomeres. Have you heard of telomeres? Yeah.
Yes.
So they reset that one, and then a couple of other things, and certain defects in your body. If there are sicknesses, it will be raised. And then there's one for healing. Okay, and one for regeneration. There are different ones. She was mentioning the regeneration as well. So if somebody have lost a limb, it's still in your DNA, what do you call it, imprint.
Yeah.
And this can be, what do you call it, regrown. So she was explaining all these things to people. And her emphasis was, if you take the jab, okay, then your DNA is messed up, because it must be taken, your DNA must be taken and fed into the med bed for this regeneration to run. And it doesn't work with synthetic, kind of a manipulated DNA, which is synthetic based. It must work with your natural one. So, and then while I was listening to her, I said, so where is the place of our pharmaceutical industries and hospitals? Are they going to kill off all these, what do you call it, industries at once? And then she said, no, as if she was in my head. But at a point in time, she said, this does not mean that all the industries are going away, but there will be still hospitals for things like, emergency accident to treat people, wounds and stuff, minor things. But things that are not inconsistent with your created nature, how your DNA should, function, this will be taken care by the med beds and so on and so forth. So medicine in the years ahead, or not many months or not many years from now, because she didn't give any time limit. Okay, that is happening tomorrow, or because according to her, these things are hidden from the public. And these are things the public should already know, but it is kept secret. So once this is released, then the public will also benefit from some of this, what do you call it, uh, 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 technologies. And in doing that, it will save a lot of people who are going through a lot of pain at the moment, you know.
Yeah.
So that is hectic. So medicine is actually going to be seen on another, plane, where intrusive medicine. What I mean by intrusive, dissecting people, cutting them, and all that, will go away,
Yeah.
and it will lead to a kind of approach like the med beds. And the med beds is like if you have seen a thermography machine or an X-ray machine, you, they put you, okay, let me use the thermograph. They put you in and then it can take in your organs. By this time, they put you in that kind of what do you call it, machine or system, and then whatever they are doing, you are seeing it, and then you can see the effect, but it is not intrusive like
Yeah.
cutting, like because you're a good boy, take 3 tablets a day. Tomorrow, take it with water. Don't take it. No, those kind of things will, give way to another kind of system. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, the
It
concepts.
is beautiful. Yeah. I don't know much about it, but it's wonderful. And there's, the getting back to natural healing processes too, for those who, won't be suppressed by any of that anymore either. Like we've delved into, you and I, into this liver cleanse, and the amount of people that are asking me about it now are increasing every day. And it's like, I mean, I don't know, like I don't like to think of myself as an example, but here, I'm 60 years old in a couple of days. I walk 13 kilometers a day on average throughout the year. I can get down and do 50 push-ups. Can you do that? I mean, like
Yeah.
I'm like, and I've been doing these liver cleanses for a long time, like for ever since my liver cancer 10 years ago. And, you know, I haven't had a cold in ever since COVID started, if you want to call it that. And that was like, I had a, I had a cold when this first came into Canada in February, got over it in 3 or 4 days. And I think since then, it's just been, I'm immune to everything. Like I travel on the trains, I go in every public place there is, and no mask on, of course, and it's just been okay. If it's going to come, it's going to come, like these people are being vaccinated. It could come at me from sorry. It could come from any other way, but it's not happening. And it's because I'm looking after my own health and being responsible for myself with, you know, liter and a half of water every morning when I wake up. I drink it down. I eat nothing but, you know, uh, raw fruits and vegetables. I cook very little when it comes to that. I cook my meat, of course, but there's things that we can do for ourselves while we're getting prepared for these med beds too. And then not having to be lined up waiting for them, like we can be responsible for ourselves. And there's no limit to it. The idea that bullshit stories about how we had to fertilize and we had to use chemicals and all that kind of stuff to grow enough food to eat on this earth, that was just lies. That was all based on the illusion of lack, and there is no lack. So we're moving ahead in so many ways, brother. But
So,
so yeah, go
like
ahead.
like you're saying, Andreas Moritz, our favorite, actually, the first person I heard the liver cleanse from was from Huda Clark. Huda Clark.
Yeah,
And I said, what is this liver cleanse? So I was really curious about this, what do you call it, the liver cranes, okay? So I started researching and I read, deep into it. But reading, reading will not give you any, what do you call it, uh, 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 you wouldn't see anything unless you have indulged yourself, because
That's
it's
right.
like you get to the sea and you say, oh, this is water. They said it get, when you get inside you'll be wet. How does wetness feel like? Get in, put your leg inside and see how it is. So
Exactly.
I tried it, I tried it, and what I saw was so much. You cannot. And I said, all this thing in me, but I normally visit the loo every day. Okay. But
Yeah.
I saw a lot of things. And from that point in time, after doing one or two, I stopped. And that's really, really dangerous if you really, stop doing. You have to cleanse until you are, because I give you an analogy. Okay. If I have a strainer and this strainer, I use it to strain oranges. Okay. If I strain
Yeah.
the oranges, I leave the pulp in. I don't clean it. The following day, I do the same thing. The third day, just imagine over and over what happened. It will be infested with a lot of things. And
Yeah.
then what happens is when I do that, and just imagine the blood in you is your sewage, kind of sewage system, okay? And
Yeah.
you are, taking in things, and if it is processed, okay, some of them
Yeah.
come out, some of them even get stuck into your big intestines, okay, and then they could be there for years. And
Yeah.
these are the fecal matter that become a harboring place for all kinds of bacteria and viruses, and you know so according to holistic medicine, you start you start having problem when your colon is dirty. Okay,
Yeah.
that is why they say detox, detox. So once you start detoxing, and the other day I was reading this book by Andreas Moritz, okay, and I found out that he was talking about coffee enemas, which he said is but coffee enemas also, if you do a lot of research, actually it was done by the Germans first, okay? Uh, According to the research so far that I've done, the Germans suggest in the war, they used to do enema cleanse most of the time. So at one point in time, there was a shortage of medicine, and the German soldiers, according to the historical, write-up, says that these medical doctors drank a lot of coffee. So one day there was a soldier who needed an enema, and this soldier also had pains, and the antibiotic was finished, and where they will also get the supply from is blocked. So this doctor poured the water. He needed to warm the water a little to get it to a certain temperature before it is used as an enema. And unfortunately, it ended up in the cup. The cup that was used was not properly rinsed. So a little bit of the coffee entered into the enema water, and anyway, it's going to the bot. So what? Who cares? So
Yeah.
they push it there. And then after this guy discharged the, what do you call it, the liquid and the fecal matter, he lied down for some time and then woke up. He said, I don't feel the pain anymore. And so this doctor didn't say anything, but he said, okay, maybe it worked for him. Let me try another one. And I just added another one. So they found out that with pain, and suddenly different ailments that these soldiers were complaining were, so it became a standard, of medicine for them. But uh, there's an institute that I got to know which deals with, the name that shall not be mentioned,
Yeah.
CENCER. Okay, so
Yeah.
this guy came to the US. He's a German, Max Gershon. Gershon. Some people say Gerson, some people say Gershon. So this guy, Max Gershon, came to the US and then started practicing the enemas, the coffee enemas for this kind of treatment. But it was not accepted. I think it had a lot of backlash and all that. So the daughter moved it to Mexico. Okay, so people go there for this kind of treatment. But there's a lot of material on the coffee enema. Initially, starting it is very uh, difficult, okay? But if you start it, you get a lot of results also. And if you don't take time, you become addicted to it. And it relaxes, it gives you clarity of mind, and then it relaxes your nerve. The pain thing, for so far, the people that I've heard from, or the people I've gotten to know who have practiced this, tells me that the pain aspect is really, really, and after you have done it, you sleep a lot, okay?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of benefits that you have, like the, what do you call it, the phlegm. You you poop a lot of phlegm. And this phlegm, uh, what do you call it? A place where the bacteria do their quorum sensing. What I mean by quorum sensing in biology is like they do their communication. Okay, this guy, we
Yeah.
have to hit it from here. So they communicate. The bacteria and the viruses, use the phlegm as a medium, of, quorum sensing and doing, those kind of, havoc in the body. But with this, if you poop, you poop, what do you call it, this flames out of your system, you eventually destroying their habitat, okay?
Yeah.
And this coffee also have a lot of glutathione, and glutathione is good for the liver, okay? So you sort of get rejuvenated, and it's tablets that you can buy. People even use it to bleed their skin, the black women. That one is another day. I don't want to go there.
Yeah. That's good.
But yeah,
Well, that's,
cleaning your liver
yeah.
when you are getting fair. So it's okay. But you shouldn't, all that we are saying, we don't recommend it to you to do. We are not medical doctors, okay? But it is
Yeah.
our own research and experiences that we are sharing. So if you care to go into some of these things, then you have to research properly, and then listen to people who have done it. I don't think if it was not beneficial to them, they wouldn't come out to, say some of these things. And for some African families, enema is part of, their medical culture. Okay, so
Yeah.
enema, and then there's another one that, they push something in the back place.
Yeah.
Some herbs, they push it there, and then one can sleep overnight with it for the medicine to seep into the system to, clear, because I asked somebody the other day, which parts, generate a lot of blood in your body.
Yeah.
The guy was like confused. But your heart? I said, no, no, no. There's another part. There's a muscle in between your, what do you call it? The backside. And that's where
Yeah.
most blood is, the root system, your root system is under, so it is easy for you, it is easy for this animal, glutathione, to get into your blood system through that place. That is why it is so effective, okay?
Yeah.
And the liver, the blood is recycled throughout the body, I think, every 3 minutes, okay? So just imagine if you put that thing there and it get into your bloodstream, it will recycle it. Just maybe hold it for about 15 minutes or 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
let's say within that period, you have about 4 recycles or 5 recycles, okay?
Right.
And then you'll be free. So that is, and just like you're saying, we should, your health is your responsibility. It's not somebody's responsibility. And
Yeah.
whilst it is being heralded that a better medicine is coming or a better way of doing things are in the pipeline, you also have to, in the meantime, in between time, you have to you have to keep yourself, healthy by
Yeah.
doing things that are appropriate and that are beneficial, because we are dependent on each other, and don't say everything is interconnected. So your health concern is my health concern. So mhm.
Wonderful, Benjamin. That's awesome. Well, brother, I think I'm going to continue on my way. I'm on my way out to get
Okay,
spring
so
water. You can see my jug
so
back there.
we can continue some other time.
Of
Thank you.
course. I love you, brother. And I'm
So
just going to say, with abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria on our minds, we love you guys. And thank you for listening, and share the stories about the canal.
thank you. Bye bye.
I love you, bro. See ya.